Greetings, everyone. Mark RENKO here. It's Saturday afternoon, St. Louis, Missouri, and I'm with my friend, Wanda Richert of Kansas. You know what? We like to get together and do some regular content about some of the events that are of importance to us and that we find going on around the world in general. And we've had it planned for a couple weeks that we wanted to do a video on basically drag queen story hour type things, child trafficking in general, basically anything that involves innocent children being taken advantage of against their will. I think Wanda will agree with me. We've got a lot of content that we've put together over time, a lot of videos of supporting evidence of our claims. However, today, when we sat down to start putting things together, we kind of hit a wall and we couldn't figure out why we were hitting this wall. For me personally, I just felt like a couple of years ago, we did a video on bears and the vaccines, and it was very easy to do to me because I felt like there were victims in those circumstances, and people were being vaccinated and they didn't really know what they were getting into. So there were victims, but people did have the opportunity to investigate things on their own and make an intelligent decision. What we're finding now with these children is they are the victims, and there seems to be no one looking out for them. They're incapable at their own age. Wanda, go ahead.
No, you keep going, Mark. Keep going.
I think they're incapable at their own age to know what they're up against. And I'm saddened to see that I see parents all over the country and the world that take their children to these, drag queen story hours and set them down there, 4 or 5-year-old girls, boys, and they're being paraded, scantily clad men dressed as women in the most horrid fashion. It's actually disgusting. And it's belittling to women. It's belittling to children. I think it's belittling to the family dog. Anyone that really gets a hold of it, it's just bad news. But so we couldn't put our hearts into it. We're going to do it, don't get us wrong, but we thought maybe it was better for the moment just to explain some of our thoughts. And Wanda and I were talking earlier. She had an excellent career on Broadway, very famous actress there in New York City. And she, decades ago experienced what it was like to work with the gay community. And I think she wants to share some of her thoughts on how that was portrayed back then in a very professional manner against what we're seeing today that is, quite frankly, ludicrous and belittling to all involved. So, Wanda, go ahead.
Thank you, Mark. Yes, I've been very saddened, even rageful recently at the amount of misunderstanding that is occurring in my sphere. I spend a lot of time on Facebook, which is where I see a lot of people I used to work with. And for 35 years, I was in the musical theater. And most of the people I worked with were gay men, actually. I even had a comment on Twitter the other day about why I'm so against gay people. And I had to respond because it seems it's taken so personally. And my response was basically, I have absolutely, this is not about gay people. I worked with gay people for my entire career. And my best girlfriends, I joke, were gay men. And my best friends were gay men. And I have no problem with any of that community. And that community right now, along with people close to me, including my daughter, do not understand what we have been seeing unfold in an absolutely, it's like this quantum leap forward into this absolutely unbelievable place where mothers of all people who are being pulled into this I want to be cool, I'm going to take my kids to this show, I'm going to be cool. This is nothing compared to what I used to experience when I was on the road. I was on the road before I got to Broadway, say in the first national tour of A Chorus Line. And here we were doing 8 shows a week, and the role I was playing was very demanding as far as dancing goes. And the first thing we did when we hit the stage door out of the theater at night was to find the first gay bar there was in every city we were in. And we traveled the entire United States, and we would sit pretty much in one city for a couple of months or at least 3 weeks. So we got to know these places. And if you wanted to go have a good time, you went to a gay bar and danced the night away. Or you went to a gay nightclub where there were these female impersonators, as Charles Pierce is one name that comes to mind. There were others that we would go to an adult nightclub and watch these extremely talented men. And I don't believe it was Charles Pierce who played Barbara Streisand, but there was one in particular that I remember was known for his portrayal as Barbara Streisand. He looked like her, he sang like her, and it was an evening of entertainment that was unparalleled to anything. I mean, it could have been absolutely taken from that nightclub onto a Broadway stage and nowadays and been an absolute smash hit. These were talented men performing with their God-given talents, and it was an incredible night for all. But again, it was an adult nightclub. There were never any children there, and they were not parading around in G-strings with their bare asses hanging out, having children give them money as if it were a strip club with a gentleman coming and sticking dollars or making it rain in what would be today a strip club. And that's what it's come to. And because of the censorship that we constantly, like I say, we're a broken record about this, but the censorship over the last several years especially has kept most people from seeing what's actually going on. And what's going on is extremely disturbing. Children do not belong anywhere near this. And it is the indoctrination that's happening because of it is frightening to me, because I have an 8-year-old grandson now who has come up with some vocabulary recently that I'm like, where in the hell did you catch that? And undoubtedly it was at school. He used the term sus, and I'm like, what the hell is sus? I guess sus means suspect, meaning
SUS.
gay or straight. It's all these terms, that go along with the whole drag queen story hour and the transgender thing that's going on right now. What we experienced before has nothing to do with what's going on now. And I think that's where, when Mark said we hit a wall today, I shared my screen with Mark, and I have saved in Instagram, and I'm not really good technologically there. It's different for me than Twitter or Facebook. I've shared so many things that I think Mark was even surprised about seeing that are happening with children actually performing now. It's even gone beyond mothers taking, and you never see fathers. Well, I won't say never, but for the most part, I haven't seen fathers taking their children to these shows. It's mostly mothers. They're sitting there with the toddlers on their lap with the money, or going up to, and then the drag queens get the children up with them and have them do the catwalk down with them. And then, they turn around, they come back, and the mom gives them the money, and the child gives the drag queen the money. And it's just horrifying for me to see this. I think it's I'm exhausted from it. I'm exhausted from the fact that I can't get people to believe this is happening and how damaging this is to our children. So that's what I have to say about that. And Mark, if you can think of anything else that I shared,
It reminds me decades ago of the rooster cockfights, they called them, or in more recent decades with Michael Vick, quarterback of the Eagles, that got in a bunch of trouble for dog fights and betting on dog.
Oh, right.
Animals literally chewed each other to death, and they bet money on the outcome of that. This is the same level of damage, but it's with innocent children. I mean, something that should absolutely be illegal as a dog fight that's held in a back room somewhere in an old warehouse. This is what we're seeing in some seedy bar somewhere on the wrong end of town, but somehow it's okay for mothers and fathers to bring their children there. I wonder what it is. There seems to be something inherent with being a parent, a mother, a father, where you're nurturing skills come out that I want to protect that child. I do not want my child to experiencing anything harmful, any harm to come to them, or physically or emotionally in their life. And yet we see these women, especially, I say especially, but they'll go to these bars where it's story night, right? Drag queen story night. And there is that attitude that you said. It's not so much about the children that the mothers want to say, I'm letting them evolve into something or see something that's going to be beneficial to them. I think it's more about themselves. The statement is to themselves that they want to show their friends, hey, look, I'm with it. I'm not my
I'm really
mother. I'm
cool.
not my
I'm
mother's
so damn
mother.
cool. I don't have a
I'm
problem.
so
I
cool.
tolerate
I
everybody.
tolerate everything. No judgment here. You want to do this? My child is going to learn everything there is about sexuality. There's not going to be any inhibitions in life, anything that he or she is ashamed of when they get older. Thoughts?
Well, right now, as you're saying that, I'm recalling quite a conversation on Facebook the other day that I had to actually go in and really take my time to take some screen grabs off of. I would go to it right now and to remind myself, but I don't have permission, and maybe we can do that in the future. I would like to get permission from this lovely lady that was standing up for the children, and surprisingly she was, and I don't want to get too deep into this rabbit hole, but surprisingly she was having this conversation and almost argument with somebody that was a very strong devout Christian, and this woman was basically sticking up for the drag queen instead of the child, which is what we were getting into. Of course, I put my 2 cents in as well, but it was jaw-dropping to me that this was happening. This whole thing about tolerance. There's a difference between, and I'm a minister. I'm an ordained minister since 2008. You know, like I can love everybody as the Creator loves each human. Okay, because most humans, no matter what they're doing, inherently there's something good inside of them. But tolerance is one thing. And then when you're dealing with children, as a mother, as a grandmother now, and as a mother who has gone through the nightmare of dealing with the court systems and CPS, there comes a point where you have every right to your righteous anger. And right now, I feel what we're all getting very tired of and feel is our righteous anger that these children, they are counting on us to protect them. And they are not being protected. They are being pushed into this. They are being indoctrinated. And now we find out, which we will, when we do this really good video where we're going to add as much as we can to inform you of what you may not be seeing. I mean, there are states now, including my state of Kansas, and that was shocking for me to find out today, where they are basically saying Washington passed this bill, I forget what the number of it is, that if you do not go along with affirming your child's, what is it called, Mark? Gender care. Anyway, CPS is now has the right to step in and take your child from you. To just step in and take your gender affirming care, it's called. If a parent, the teachers have to lie to the parent, first of all. If the child wants to be a girl, is a boy at home, gets to school, wants to be a girl, they have changing areas, they can bring clothes and they can act as a girl all day long at school, and the teachers are not to tell the parents. The teachers have more rights than the parent. Now, if the parent does not know, first of all, that's a travesty in itself. But it's the parent's job. It is not the state's job. It's not the school's job. It's not our government's job. It is the parent's job to deal with a child who might be questioning anything. The fact that they're keeping it a secret and now have passed bills to take the children away from parents
What
who
else did
don't
they
want to
do in
deal with this.
Kansas this week? They passed something that said that it was okay for men to use women's restrooms, or what was that?
Yes, it was a father, I believe. It was a transgender. It looked like a male talking about, I will walk into whatever bathroom I choose, and I'll walk into that woman's bathroom, and basically you can't stop me. And he was being extremely cocky about it on top of it. And you're the one who said that to me,
Yeah,
right?
I showed you a video. There was a gentleman, it was a TikTok video. I think it was only about a minute
Yes.
and a half or 2 minutes long. But the first 10 seconds was a transgender that had some rainbow, sunglasses on and such. Obvious what the orientation was there, but he was cockily, if that's a word, in everybody's face saying, you know what? They just passed a law in Kansas that says it's okay for me to go in your little girl's restroom. So the next time you see me walk in there, he's going to have a smile on his face. And what are you going to do about it? In other words, and a man responded, it was his video, and he took the rest of the video home and basically said, you've crossed a line. We have been tolerant. Please do not confuse tolerance and patience with weakness, okay?
Yes.
Because it will be a
Yes.
false sense of security. Because if you walk into my little girl's bathroom, it won't matter what the law is, because I'm going to take care of it personally. And Wanda and I got to talking about that. And it's like, a line has been drawn in the sand recently. And again, for the people that are awake and tolerant, they just want to I think we want to give the people that are making mistakes and bad judgment a chance to rectify their thinking, okay? Correct themselves, get with God, get with whomever, because when push comes to shove and a line gets crossed, it's going to be like the walls of Jericho coming tumbling down. And it's not going to be pretty. And it will be highly unexpected by probably the media, the perpetrators of the crimes against the innocent children. Anyway, it hit home with me.
And it really hit home with me. I have a story that I'm going to share that happened in my life here soon because of all of this. It's long to get into it in this video, but basically I have two children. My son was pretty much basically legally kidnapped from me when he was 4 years old by the California court system. And I was found to be the best parent. Nobody knows this. I was found to be the best parent in a move away case after every test you can imagine and everything the courts put us through. And the judge decided that if I didn't stay there, which was an abusive place for me to be staying with my other child, my daughter, that I couldn't take my child with me to come home to Kansas to be in a safe place with my daughter and my mom. I dealt with CPS. I dealt with CPS in Sacramento, the capital of California. It was such a nightmare between the judges, between the attorneys, the child psychologists. I have firsthand experience with the corruption that happened. And that is why I'm such an activist about this. So I am going to step out with that whole entire story because my son deserves to know the truth. We have finally been reunited, but it took 20 years of them basically keeping him from me. And now, like I said, we're reunited, but he deserves to know the truth. And as a mother, this just happened a couple of years ago that we're reunited here in Kansas, all of us together. When I saw him, as soon as he started speaking as a mother, because there's nobody like a mother's intuition, nothing like a mother's intuition, I could see the damage that had been done. And it was purposely done by all of those people involved. And I'm sure hoping there's not a statute of limitations, because I certainly have something up my sleeve with that. But for those of you who will be following me with that story, I want you to know why I am such an activist about the children. When you all find out exactly what's going on, and now why they've added this to it, to the child trafficking, to the satanic ritual abuse of the children. Now they're adding this, and they're pushing this narrative. They're pushing this transgender narrative and this agenda, and the drag queens. I mean, getting back to what I was saying at the beginning of this video, when we saw drag queens, they were beautiful women. Have you seen the drag queens? Have you seen how they've made themselves up? They look like demons. It would scare any child. It can't. I have no problem with people going in and reading to children, but not looking like that, not to scare them. And why are they doing it? Why aren't the parents reading to the children? Why aren't children reading their own books? Why do they have to push these drag queens in all the schools reading stories to children? They are done up with horns and makeup that looks absolutely demonic. And it just makes me sick inside when I see it.
So
No
there's
children
one for you.
should
I
have to
mean,
ever deal with that.
well, maybe that
That's
is
what I
the
have to say
difference.
about that. That is the difference.
Maybe
It's
that's
demonic.
the difference. Maybe these people, some of them are demons. We talked about this before, that if you dissect what's going on across the country and the world, how many different factions, how many different organizations, from courts to black robe judges to police to teachers unions to child protective services, have to be involved in this to pull it off so easily, and I would say eloquently,
Exactly.
but that's not the word, because it seems to be there's an agenda and a carefully laid out plan that when they decide to press the go button, everybody's on board at the same time. You never see
Yeah.
anybody coming forward saying, well, wait a minute, this doesn't make any sense. It's like they've all been brought into the thing months and months, if not years before it happened. You've
Years.
been given the script, and it's like, okay,
Absolutely.
it's almost like 5 years ago, if you wanted to be a teacher, there must have been some sort of criteria that they were looking for to screen people out that actually had a conscience and a soul, and said, well, you're not going to work very well in our grade school because you actually love children. We're actually wanting somebody in here who has no conscience, who wants to abuse children if given the opportunity to. And above all, will take orders from us without question.
Bingo.
Like
There you
that.
go. That being the most important thing, that they were hiring, I'm sure, people looking out for people that wouldn't give them any pushback. The brave ones are the ones that have stepped away from it. And if they haven't gotten fired, they've just left on their own accord, because they absolutely refuse to lie to the parents. And we've got some of those clips that I showed Mark today that we'll be inserting in this video. It's going to be a masterpiece once we get it edited. But you deserve to know, for your children, for your grandchildren, for their future. These children are innocents. They need to be protected. And right now, I personally, this is as a minister, and as long as we've been hearing spiritually about how the world is ascending into a beautiful golden age of peace, um, you know, we need to absolutely make it our priority for a better world for these children, so that they're safe and that they can absolutely grow into the incredible leaders that are going to be here long after we're gone. They can't be taken over by this demonic agenda that's been put in place. You know, I'm going to get off my soapbox. Now it's your turn.
Well, to add to what you're saying, we've discussed this before too, and I've read it, during our investigations, that there are a lot of people who are very spiritual who feel that right now we know that we're in this battle of good versus evil. There is no doubt at this juncture.
No
Someone
doubt.
may have questioned that a few years ago, but we agreed this morning that it was like, okay, when did all this stuff start happening? Okay, I mean, I don't remember all this drag queen story hour stuff going on a couple of years ago, and we were like trying to find all the little anomalies that were occurring that seemed to surface out of nowhere. And when did they start? And no matter how you dissect it, you come up, it's been 3 years now since COVID hit our shores, January of 2020. I believe it's April of 2023 right now. So over 3 years. And it seems like when that happened, and then shortly thereafter, when the vaccinations happened, it seems like the bizarrety just took off the scale. And along with that is this seemingly disconnect of anything between the human body and the higher self and God. Any morality, any sense of decency just went out the window. Again, for people to parade their children in front of complete strangers at 4 and 5 years of age is if our grandparents, if you could get in a time machine and go back to the 1930s and 40s, whatever, bring them forward and let them live here for about a week and a half and give them the television remote control and let them get on Facebook or whatever. I don't know that they'd be more mad at the circumstances going on in the outside world or us and say, how could you allow this to happen? If this would have happened in our day, we would have had torches and pitchforks and been marching into the town and took these people and literally hung them from trees for the stuff that they thought about doing to our children.
It would have never gotten to this point.
Right. It would have never gotten there.
Never.
And it would have been diffused so fast that no one would have ever considered doing that act. I've heard before that there's certain countries around the world where, the punishment fits the crime. For instance, if you steal in certain countries, they literally cut your hands off, right? So it's like, well, you're never going to steal anything again. So if you're thinking about undertaking a life as a criminal in some of those countries, you probably go to bed at night and say, well, if I don't get caught, I'm going to have this really nice television set. But if I do get caught, I'm going to get both of my arms or my hands cut off. Maybe I shouldn't do that. Maybe I should go hang drywall instead with Uncle Bob. But the crime has to, or the punishment has to fit the crime, and we're not seeing that in this country anymore.
There is no punishment anymore. I mean, my goodness, there are all kinds of criminals being let out of, including all of these people that have a history of molesting children. I mean, they're on the list. And how many of those people right now are dressing up as women and having little children sit on their lap, just anything to get near the children. It's truly happening. And my issue is this is the time of the return of the divine feminine. I'm a woman, and I'm certainly not a prude. This is not about being prudish or, like that one lady that was fighting in on the side of the drag queens during that little Facebook rant we went through. This is about the fact that women, we need to stand up and take our womanhood back. They are not depicting what womanhood truly is.
When did they start? We kind of were going through a timeline earlier of all of the strange events as they occurred regarding the destruction and elimination of women from our society. and not that we've got this in the exact order, but definitely a couple of years ago was when we first started noticing men, biological men, competing in women's sports, whether it was
Right.
swimming, bicycling, weightlifting, whatever. And I thought, well, this is going to last about 2 weeks. And no, it's never.
Surprise. And look at what's happened with Riley. Oh my God. She was just stuck in a room. She was the winner. She was the winner of that swim meet. Worked all her life to accomplish that. And this man, 6'4", comes in. He was like 384th on the men's swimming team. Yet he tied with her. He didn't even really win. They actually tied, but he had to get the trophy for the photo op. And then she started speaking out against it, and the trans community actually attacked her, and she was holed up in that room for 3 hours, and they did nothing to help her.
Right.
And nobody has been arrested, and nobody is being punished for this.
So
It's wrong.
The approach that these evil ones seem to take every time they have an agenda is they don't just dump it all in your face all at once. They sit there. I remember growing up and having 3 siblings, and we always had German Shepherds, right? And I remember being about 10 years old, and we were all in the living room, which was where the carpet was, and in the kitchen was where the vinyl floor was, and that's where the German Shepherd stayed. He couldn't come in on the carpet. So we would all be watching television, or Carol Burnett or something, right, on Saturday night. And I know that'll get a laugh out of you, your friend, right? Anyway, the dog would come in, and he would want to come in there with us. So he'd start off by putting his paws on the carpet. And if nobody said anything, then he was a little further and then a little further. And so the dog was really kind of testing us, like, how far can I get? And my dad, if he saw him, would take a newspaper and roll it up and pop him one on the head, and he'd go back in the kitchen. Well, this is what's happening with this conversion, this elimination of women. They start off seeing how far they can push you. So it's like, well, let's go ahead and see if we can get men to compete in women's sports and see how much retaliation we get. There's an evolution of this process that they're using that ends in, I'll just jump to the ending. They're showing incubators basically now, where it's like, well, if we want to procreate, we don't even need a woman anymore. All we need is some sperm and some eggs. We don't even need the woman's womb. We will find a machine that looks like a Maytag washer on Star Wars and put this baby in there and have it hooked up. And 9 months
And we've
later,
seen the videos. I mean, they do have these. Right. They do have these things. We've seen the videos.
Throw in a dryer sheet and see what you end up with.
Oh my gosh.
Anyway, you know what I'm saying.
Do you know what? There's so many now. It seems impossible that there are this many transgender people having this crisis. It is a gender dysphoria. Okay, that is definitely what it is. It is very much like an anorexic having a dysphoria about body image. So that's what's going on. But there's so many of them. Why do they need to compete with the same? Well, either or. It's mostly men now with women. Why don't we just have transgender sports teams? Why don't we have them competing against each other where it's fair? There's so many of them. Well, then I guess we need to start building transgender.
I absolutely agree. We should have men. If you're a biological male and you're proud of it, then you should be lifting weights with men and swimming against men. And if you're a woman and you were born a woman and your average height is 5'4" to 5'6" and between 120 and 145 pounds, or whatever that number is, that's who you should be competing in that against. And if you decide you want to be a man who thinks you're a woman and compete, I don't know if it's what kind of sense of pride somebody like that would get. I wouldn't get any pride out of that personally. I'd be embarrassed senseless. But why don't you all get together and have your own little sports competition team? And all the transgenders that are males that want to put lipstick on and do whatever and wear fake padded bras. They can all sit out there and go swimming against each other, and then we'll see which one of you are the best.
Exactly. And that's being inclusive. That's truly being inclusive. It has nothing to do with us not tolerating it. Let's go ahead and change the world. If we're going to change the world, let's change it for the better for everybody and let them have their own, like I said, sports teams, their own bathrooms. Those bathrooms, as Mark said, what they can have tampons, they can have condoms, they can have changing tables in the bathroom for the transgenders. Everybody can go in there and use it, and the women can stay, and the little girls can stay safe in their ladies' room, and the men can have their men's room. That's what I think would be a perfect solution to this, because this crap needs to end right now. It's wrong, and we need to save the children. And I know Mark and I are going to do our best to at least let you know what's going on. So stay tuned for what we're going to put together, because there's a lot of shocking things that we have saved, and I'm looking forward to getting that put together in the next week or so.
Thinking of a solution too, we've always said, I want to be solution driven. If we do videos about something, I don't just want to say, look, woe is me, look at us, the world's going to hell, and 5G and GMOs and fluoride, and woe is us, right? I've always thought, what are we going to do? Let's outline the problem, but then let's propose a solution to this. I was thinking this morning, it's been quite a few years since I looked at him, but many years ago, probably around 2012. So 10 or more years ago, I was looking at a lot of Max Egan. Okay, I believe Max Egan's out of Australia, but he does have a website called The Crow House. It's thecrowhouse.com. And he's got some classic videos on there that have been there for 10 years or more, and they stand the test of time. Two of which are called, I believe, The Calling and The Awakening. And I remember looking at David Icke a lot around 10 years ago, and he was instrumental in making me really see the big picture, and Max Egan. And what I remember most about Max Egan is that he was proposing the solution as to how to get out of the mess we're in. And he said, what it's going to take is enough people to wake up, enough of them, and to initiate basically global non-compliance, meaning everybody wakes up one day and says, look, I've had it. I'm not doing this anymore. I'm not paying my taxes anymore. In the United States, I can tell you right now that the IRS collects, billions of dollars, if not probably trillions of dollars of taxation revenue annually, and none of that money stays in the United States to fix anything. Most people would be shocked if you said, well, I don't pay taxes. And they'd be like, well, everybody has to pay their taxes. What makes you think you don't have to? My money's going to fix the bridges and roads. And my answer is no, it's not. Look at our roads, look at our bridges. This country looks like a third world country most of the time, because the billions of dollars that we bring in annually, why do we not have high-speed rail running from New York to Los Angeles and beyond? We have none of that. And it's because all of the money is a tribute to the king, okay? It all goes bye-bye. The only money that stays in this country to fix anything, even a pothole, is off of either state taxes or sales taxes, or cigarette and alcohol taxes, that type of thing. But so the money that we pay into the federal withholding, by and large, you would be shocked at the percentage of that goes to support child trafficking. Okay.
Yep.
Thoughts before we close it up?
Oh, I think I'm spent. We're all just so tired. We just want this to be over, and we do need to band together, and we need to know that anything that we share with you is coming from an absolute deep place of love. And we absolutely want these children to be saved from the suffering they're going through. And we just need to band together, tolerate each other, but we also need to be tolerated. I don't need anybody else's ideology pushed on me. I can decide whether or not I want to pretend with these people. I choose not to pretend with these people, and that's my choice. It doesn't mean that there's any hate involved. And that was my biggest thing, that everybody is just assuming that we hate these people, and that's just not true. Anyway, it isn't on my end. So
All right.
I am tired, and I think we covered more than I thought we would.
All right, I'm going to stop this video, and we will put it up there tonight. And again, it's just a weekly type of thing that unrehearsed in every way, where we just kind of throw some things out there that we've been thinking about. But it is all leading to a video that we want to put together, more professionally, with intros and exits and things of that nature, and our, email addresses, whatever. So thanks for listening, and
Thank you. And we love you all. And I can be reached at shedthelightontruth.org. If you need to send me an email, it's in my about section at shedthelightontruth.org. And Mark, where do they find you usually?
I'm on Twitter, basically, Mark RENKO on Twitter. So join me
Thank
there.
you so much. God bless.
Talk to you soon.